$2 Tuesdays at WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com, where you can get the hottest handicappers' best bet or daily package for only $2.
Welcome to WagerTalk TV. I am Carmine Bianco, and this is Stoppage Time, our Tuesday show. We are going to cover 3 Champions League games that will be played over the next 2 days, Tuesday and Wednesday games. We're going to cover Liverpool and Ajax, a big one at Anfield. We're going to cover Juventus and Benfica, a big one in that group for second place. And of course, we're going to end it with Man City and Dortmund. A big line, but a game with a lot of storylines. And with me to discuss those 3 games from WagerTalk.com, it's Kevin Dolan and Nick Borrman, and the prop master himself from Sports Memo, Pavlos, Laguretos. Boys, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on. And 3 big games to discuss today, but over the next couple of days and even into Europa League on Thursday, there's a lot of intriguing and interesting matchups, and a lot of them with players moving from one side to the other. Of course, one game we're not covering, but it is the Barcelona and Bayern Munich game with Lewandowski returning to Munich for that one as well too. But we got 3 of them to discuss. Anything you guys are looking forward to this week in Champions League?
I think it's so convenient that you got games like Holland with Dortmund and Manchester City being selected in the same group, and then Barcelona and Bayern in the same group. I mean, it seems a little fishy that just happened just out of happenstance. But I'm always one to question everything in the world. So, but I can't wait for these games. It's going to be an awesome week, and I love the fact that Champions League is just crammed into these next, whatever it is, 8 weeks. It's a lot for the players, but it's a lot of fun for us. I'll say that.
Nick, when you get to be my age, you question absolutely everything, including the bane of your existence. So on a weekly, only I, switching from European football to American football, only I would commit 6 weeks ago to going on a winery tour on a Sunday, which then happens to be the first week of NFL football. I'm walking around trying to listen what they're talking about while still having an earpiece in my left ear, listening to the football games that I had action on. But see, someone who wouldn't make that mistake is Kevin Dolan, right, Kev?
Definitely not. I kind of said last week that I'm a fan of France because I like wine and baguettes. That's a lie. I don't even like wine. I don't even know why I said it. So I definitely wouldn't be an ideal candidate for a winery tour, that's for sure. Whiskey tour, though, most definitely.
And we are going to do a whiskey tour along with one of these days before we get to the action to a brewery tour, because Pavlos has a craft brewery. And I think we need to get some samples, at least for our clients, Pavlos.
Yeah, well, the brewery tour is something that you guys should definitely take. We usually have a projector there with any kinds of matches like basketball, soccer, whatever you wanted. We can put it there. So whenever you guys are in Greece, if you ever guys come, you're going to have a nice time. We're going to have some live betting, great beers, smoked meat, like foosball table, anything. You just name it. You just name it.
All right. Just before we head into the first game, I'm going to just do a little bit of business. I want to mention last week we had a 3-day soccer all access promo. This week we have a 7-day soccer all access promo. You can get $20 off a 7 days of soccer. That includes all 5% plays when you use the code Champions20. So Champions20 will get you 20 off of that $79 price, $59. So you're getting 7 days for less than $10 a day, and that you can use that code over at WagerTalk.com for any of myself, Nick Borrman, and Kevin Dolan, and over at Sports Memo for Pavlos Laguretos. All right, guys, let's get right into it. Big game, Liverpool and Ajax. Let's have a look at the numbers on this one. Liverpool minus 200. The draw is plus 375. Ajax plus 475. And listen, but Nick, before I go to you first, I'm gonna start by saying phrases you should never use when betting or trying to figure out who to bet on are must wins and what ifs. But if you're a fan of Liverpool, this is really a must win, or what if Napoli wins in their game against Rangers and Liverpool loses this game to Ajax. They could be on the outside looking in this group. They'll be 6 points behind the top 2 spots. And not a great performance by this team. They've only had 2 clean sheets through 7 games thus far. And 2 of those clean sheets were against teams struggling to score in Bournemouth, where they beat them 9-0, and then a scoreless draw, I think it was, against Everton. So this team is struggling right now. And Klopp knows that. He's talking about reinventing this team after losing 4-1 at Napoli. And that was a pretty bad game for this Liverpool team. This team sets up a little different. It's no longer a false 9 with Mane in there. You've got now Nunez there. They're playing a little bit different. It's a little tougher on the center backs, and I think this is why they're getting scored on. I see this as a tight defensive one, Nick. Both games back in 2021 group stages finished 1-0 score lines. That was a couple of years ago, but I think this is a tighter contest. Ajax team that handily won their game. They're going to look to come here and try and get a result. A draw is good enough for them, but the total's 3.5 here. I just can't see it getting there. I'm leaning under 3.5 as my play. Nick, what do you got?
Yeah, Carm, I'm in agreement. I am on the under 3.5 in this game. Obviously, a little weary of Liverpool, and obviously their start to the year has been not very good, at least by Liverpool standards. So it feels like it's only a matter of time. I keep saying it, but that they got to get right the ship. But they're an aging team. They didn't really do much to replace that this year. They're still putting up solid numbers. Their expected goal numbers are solid. Their expected goals per shot are still in the top 5 in the league of the Premier League. So it's not like they're just falling off a cliff. They're just simply not converting a lot of their chances. And then of course their defense is just so far it does not seem like what it used to look like. And Napoli, ran all over them last week, which was embarrassment. Maybe that wake up game that they needed, but if you look at the Premier League play this season, the only time Liverpool has covered the number, which is 1 goal right now, was that 9-0 thumping over Bournemouth. Otherwise, they have yet to cover a 1-goal line this season. And their schedule, it's not like it's been against the top teams either. They faced several bottom half of the table teams. You got Everton, Palace, Fulham, all of which they settled for draws against. So, Ajax clearly is going to be better than those 3 teams I just mentioned as far as firepower and as far as ability to press on Liverpool. And, their numbers it's hard to even compare. We all know the Eredivisie is nothing like the Premier League. Still, they've won all 6 league matches, plus their opening Champions League match versus the Rangers. They kept 5 straight clean sheets. So there's a lot to like defensively, at least, from Ajax and as well. And, I do lean, if I'm looking inside, I do lean Ajax plus a goal just because Liverpool's not converting like they should. And this thing probably is going to end up being pretty close, which is also why I do like the under. And I think you mentioned it, Carm, their previous results just a couple seasons ago were both 1-0 wins by Liverpool. This thing could turn out very much like that. But 3.5 goals is a lot, and it gives us the opportunity, even if the game ends up in a 2-1 either way, we're still going to cash that versus where Ajax +1, I lean to that side, but we might end up pushing on that number. So I do like the under here. I think it's going to be very tight. I don't think there's going to be a lot. Like you said, Ajax would be happy with the draw here. Liverpool need to win the game. They might do everything they can. They might focus defensively. That's what they should be doing at least. And I think they'll probably put a better effort, at least than against Napoli, on the defensive side. But I just don't trust their offense here. So I'm going to take the under 3.5 goals. I think that's a safe way to go here.
Nick, I always knew that I liked you, man, and this is great. We're on the same side. No disagreements as of yet on this show, but I'm sure the show is still early. We're going to find plenty of opportunities to disagree with each other. Pavlos, I'm going to go to you next. You look at this Liverpool team, and I keep saying at some point it's why I never want to step in front of this team that they're going to put it together and they're going to start winning games, but it's just not happening. I thought the Bournemouth game, which I said was a get right spot, they're going to put up a big number, and they did, would be the one. And then, since then they've gone 1-1-1. So they really haven't put it together as of yet. Their hurting midfield's got a lot to do with that as well, too. Give me your thoughts on this game.
Yeah, I think I mean, if Liverpool were against any other team, I would think that this is a bounce back spot, in the sense that Liverpool got thrashed by Napoli. Then Jurgen Klopp was visibly concerned in his post-match interview. He said they have a lot of internal problems. They're going to need to take some time, to reflect on what's wrong. And they did get that time, because, the Queen died in England, and there were no EPL matches over the weekend, so they probably had the time to sit down, just talk about it, and resolve their issues, because their issues are obviously psychological. And this is a very solid side with a lot of superstars, a good coach. So the problem is just psychological. And when you look at this historically, Liverpool, they've lost just 2 of their first home matches of the season in a European Cup. They have what is it? It's a great record, I think. 13 wins, 10 draws, and just 2 losses. So I mean, this Liverpool side should be able to bounce back. But Ajax, they've been really a machine that creates players. They sold off so many players over the summer. Practically their entire starting, forwards. But still, they have a lot of quality up there. There's always players popping up from, various parts of the world. Right now, they've been using a lot of different players. Older players like Klaassen and Tadic up front. But they have Kunduz, they have Berghaus, who are really, really, really good players. So it's tough for me to pick a side or a total here. I'm going to take a goal scorer prop. I'm going to take Berghaus to score any time. He's already scored 3 goals and 2 assists in 7 matches with Ajax this season. Last season, he scored 12 goals and dished out 20 assists in 45 matches. He's a Swiss Army knife of a player. Coaches love him. He can play in the midfield. He can play as a winger. He can play as a false 9. Now, I'm not sure if he's going to start, but his numbers have been really, really amazing over the past 5 seasons. He averages well over 10 goals and over 10 assists per season in the last 5 seasons. So he's been given, a lot more responsibilities over the season. He scored already a couple of goals, 3 goals and 2 assists in 7 matches so far. So I like Berghaus to score anytime at plus 333. Now, if he doesn't start, you can pivot to Kunduz to score anytime at plus 350. He's a 22-year-old player from Ghana who's been given, again, a lot of responsibility this season. Scored twice over the weekend, scored a goal and an assist against Rangers, and he also scored another goal against Cambuur. So either of these 2 players to score at plus 350 is good enough for me.
All right, Pavlos Laguretos from Sports Memo with his take on Liverpool and Ajax. Final word, always, on the first game goes to the Irishman. Kev, Nick and I are in agreement on the under 3.5. The lowest exact score, which I usually discuss with Pavlos, the lowest price on exact score is Liverpool winning 2-1 at plus 800. Any way you could take that and incorporate it into what you like in this game?
Yeah, I really like that scoreline. So I'm in slight disagreement. I do see goals, although I wouldn't be taking the 3.5. I think that's a bit too much. But look, we all know Ajax is probably the last team you want to be facing if you have defensive issues, and especially if it's a psychological problem as well. We go back to last week's game. Liverpool were made to look like complete amateurs against Napoli. As Nick said, their fundamental numbers still weren't too bad, even in that game. But they just can't finish. On the defensive end, Liverpool have kept just 2 clean sheets over the last 9 competitive games. And, as we said, all that data we keep talking about with this Liverpool team, number 1 in total shots, number 2 in XG. There is green shoots of optimism on the offensive end, but I don't see so many for this defense. And, they're welcoming in this Ajax side who, look, I mean, you could point to their level of opposition, as being not that strong, but, they've still scored 22 goals in 6 games. 16 of their 21 goals in the Eredivisie this season coming from open play as well. So they're absolutely ripping through teams right now. They kind of only know one way to play. This is a new manager. So kind of like what we talked about Celtic last week ahead of the Real Madrid game. They're not going to change their style of play. They're not going to change what's worked for them up to this point. Didn't work out for Celtic last week, obviously, but they did exactly what we thought they would. They came out of the blocks. They ran straight at Madrid. That first 45 minutes was just end-to-end stuff. Celtic crashed the ball off the bar. They really took Madrid by surprise. But obviously, when you got the clinical finishing that Madrid have, they're going to punish you at the back. So I think, Ajax will approach this game from a very similar mindset tonight. They're facing a wounded Liverpool team. And the main difference is obviously being that they have a much better finishing contingent than Celtic do. And Liverpool haven't been as tight defensively as, Madrid have, 7.15 XGA compared with just 5.04. That one game carryover as well. So I do think we see goals in this one. For all of Ajax's offensive success, they haven't tended to do so well against English opposition. This is their kryptonite. They've lost 4 of the last 5 outright. So I think both teams will get on the score sheet in this one. And I like the both teams to score an over 2.5. So 2-1 is an acceptable scoreline for me. That's going off at -163. I actually posted this play earlier in the preview thread we do for this show. It was at -150. So money has come in. It's now pushed up to 163. But I still think that's fair enough. I agree with that move. As I'd be very surprised if we don't see 3 goals in this game. So, yeah, give me the both teams to score an over 2.5 prop for me in this one.
All right, Kevin Dolan at WagerTalk.com. A slight agreement and maybe a slight disagreement. He sees some goals, but I like his line of thinking. So that 2-1 score line, I'm perfectly happy with that, as is Nick Borrman. Let's look at the second game on today's card. This one is being played tomorrow. Juventus and Benfica. The opening number on this one, Juventus at even money plus 100. The draw is plus 260. Benfica is also plus 260. Now the markets have come in with some money on Benfica, driving Juventus up to plus 120 now, and Benfica down to plus 225. Kev, I'm going to go right back to you, but I'm just going to say this is another big fixture. If you figure that this group belongs to PSG, and there's no reason to think it doesn't at the end of the day, then these are the two teams that are going to be battling for that second spot in this group and trying to avoid that crossover third spot into a Europa League. Juve were hard done by on the weekend, a 2-2 draw at home. They fell behind 2-0, came back, thought they'd won it in extra time before VAR intervened, called it an offside, and then later footage was revealed that there was a player that VAR didn't even have on their screen who was playing everybody onside. Should have been a goal, should have been, could have been, wasn't. That's all that really matters at the end of the day. They probably shouldn't have been in that spot anyways. This is a tough one. Juve play extremely well at home. Benfica are 6-0 to start the season in Premier League in Portugal, but a grain of salt, 4 of those 6 wins have come against teams that are 13th or worse. I'm not discounting that this is a good team, but this is probably the best team they've faced thus far. And Juventus have a way of finding victories against very good teams in Champions League at home, as you saw when Chelsea visited last year after beating them 4-0 at Stamford Bridge. I think it's a false move. I think the money coming in on Benfica isn't as good as isn't where it should be. I'm going to take Juventus here. A bit of a biased selection, but I think that if you look at the core numbers between these two teams and who they've played thus far, Juve opening with a 2-1 loss at PSG on paper. They were much better statistically, but the game is played on the field. I'm going to take Juventus at plus money here at home to get the win. Kev, our first disagreement is about to happen, so let me know what you got.
I mean, it's very, very difficult for me to make a case for trusting my money, because at the end of the day, look, this is what it's about. It's all right having opinions, but we put money down, big money on these games, And I like money, and I like to keep money, and I like to make money. So it's very difficult for me to trust my money with this Juventus team. I'd almost prefer to give it to one of those Nigerian prince emails that keeps coming into my inbox about how, if I give $300, I'm going to become a millionaire. So, I know. I just can't get behind Juve right now as favourites. As you said, they had that draw against Salernitana at the weekend. That caps off a run of just 3 wins over the last 15 games and all. So I just can't get behind Juve in this spot. On the other side, as you said, we got a Benfica team. They're riding hot now, coming in off 17 straight victories across all competitions. 6 of the last 8 coming to nil as well. So kind of similar to the last game we talked about with Ajax and Liverpool, where one team is red hot right now, but you could say they're playing at a slightly lower grade. But, they're still hot nonetheless. So, yeah, I have to look towards Benfica in this spot, especially, catching a head start. History obviously isn't on our side here. However, Benfica haven't beaten a Serie A side in Italy going all the way back to 1997. So that is a major duck that they need to get off their back ahead of this trip. But even so, for me, this just isn't the same Juventus team we're all used to. They're really not playing well, in my opinion. You mentioned the PSG game last week. I mean, if Mbappe could pass the ball, PSG could have been 3 or 4 up by halftime. That was so frustrating to watch. But, that's another issue. So, yeah, look, it's got to be Benfica right now, just based on form. And, yeah, that's what I'll be on for Wednesday.
All right, Kevin Dolan, WagerTalk.com. And Kev, I can't discount what you're saying. I said going into last week's show, I really hoped that PSG put 6 on Juve in a lopsided loss, because the one thing holding this team back is their manager. Until something happens, and maybe a loss to Benfica here finally gets them to move Massimo Allegri, because he is not the manager for this team and the new players that they have. His style does not fit these players. And with that, Pavlos, I'm going to go to you on this one. Back at practice finally in training, Angel Di Maria for Juve. That's a positive sign. He could play the first 60 minutes of this game, or he could come in the second half if needed. And he's a much needed figure for this one. Obviously, one of their best players, or their best players, still injured, won't come back until after the World Cup, in Federico Chiesa. So they're treading water right now. I'm going to make a bold prediction to you, Pavlos, and the rest of the guys. Same way I said Julian Nagelsmann would be the Bayern Munich manager. I'm going to say this right now. Allegri's days are limited. He's going to be gone at some point over the next month, and Zinedine Zidane will become the manager of Juve. How's that for a prediction, Pavlos?
Wow. No, I love it. I love it. Good pedigree with this, with Zinedine Zidane. He has a lot of experience, both as a player and as a coach. I think Juventus need, that typical kind of shock when you change the manager, because, no matter how unlucky they've been with the injuries, and we should really cut Allegri some slack, because they took Di Maria to fill that front spot, injured. They took Pogba for the midfield, injured. They took Chiesa, injured. And now I see Locatelli and Rabiot are injured as well. I'm not sure if they're gonna play. And Juventus, they also have a problem with the goalkeeper, so they've been using Perin in their last few matches, which didn't really work out for them. In the midfield, they also have a crisis. They're using Miretti. It's really weird for this Juventus side, who do have, the firepower up front to hurt Benfica. A Benfica side that, yes, they've kept an awful lot of clean sheets so far in the season. I'm personally amazed, because when you look at their squad, they have Otamendi back there, who is not a really good defender, and they've suffered an injury blow to their other starting center back, Morato. So now they've been using Silva, who is an 18-year-old, I believe, very inexperienced guy. He's going to have a tough time, in the Champions League against this Juventus offense, who, yes, they're missing a lot of players, but they still have Vlahovic. They have Kostic. They have a lot of players who can do some damage in this Benfica defense. Who, yes, again, I'm saying it again, that they have been struggling in my eyes. I mean, they've been keeping a clean sheets, but now they're going to concede. I don't think Juventus are going to remain scoreless here, especially at home where they're traditionally much better. So, but I do see Benfica again scoring as well, because as I said before, Perin is not a top-class goalkeeper. This Juventus midfield seems a little soft. Yes, Paredes is doing all he can. McKennie is also in the mix. But I think this Juventus side will have a tough time keeping a clean sheet against Benfica here. So I like both teams to score at -140. I don't want to pick a side here. I don't want to pick a total. I think Benfica, after their win against Maccabi Haifa, I think they would be okay with a draw here. That wouldn't be a catastrophic result. They could keep Juventus, below them in the group standings, and they might be able to steal that second spot. So tricky, very tricky match, but I do see goals from both sides. So I like both teams to score at -140 here.
I like that play, Pavlos. Both teams to score if it finishes in a 1-1 draw is also the lowest exact score price, I believe, at +550. After that 1-0 wins by either side is +700, and I think +900 for Benfica. So I don't think they expect a lot of goals in this one. And I think it plays to the fact that, as you mentioned, Benfica would be perfectly happy coming to Turin and getting a draw in this one. It still puts them in the driver's seat after a couple of match days and, of course, a tough one on the road. So it's not a bad way to look at that. Nick, I'm going to go to you next for the final word on this one. Give us your thoughts.
So I'm not going to add a lot here. I think Kevin and Pavlos broke this down pretty well. What I will say is Benfica, yes, 11 wins, no losses this season. Kevin mentioned 17 wins going back to last year. I think Benfica is set up to make a decent run in this tournament and into the knockout rounds. And all the pressure in the world is on Juve here. This is an absolute must-win game for them at home against the other team they're competing with. If they cannot win this game, considering they're already behind 3 points, I don't see a way that they're going to come back in this group unless there's a shock result somewhere along the way. So this is a lot of pressure on Juve here. We talk, these Champions League games, they're kind of like college football bowl games, right? You gotta weigh conferences and leagues in this situation to try to gauge, competitive levels of some of these teams. But Kenshin mentioned it. Maybe the Portuguese league is a little bit weaker than Serie A, but I look at it and I question, I'm like, is it really? I mean, you look at the bottom of the table in Serie A, there are some pretty shitty teams in that league, and the Portuguese bottom of that table, it's not too much different. Maybe slight argument at the top. The top, 4 or 5 are maybe a little stronger overall than the Portuguese the league, but it doesn't matter. I mean, Juve is still not even beating the weaker teams in Serie A, and of course Benfica is the best team, if besides Porto in their league. So Salernitana they couldn't beat, Sampdoria they couldn't beat, Juve that is. So I don't know. I think it's a lot for them to ask, and I actually see. I wouldn't be surprised if Benfica, without the pressure on them, come in here and win this game. And right now, the money line of Benfica is +230. So I'm willing to throw a couple bucks on them coming into Juve here and walking out with a win. So I'm not rooting against you, Carm, but my money is.
No, it's perfectly fine, and it's kind of like what Kevin Dolan said off the top on this game is. We're playing with our money. We've got real money on these games, and I just can't, as a client play or even as a money play, I just can't put anything on a Massimo Allegri team. I think they win. They'll probably have some of my biased money on them in this spot here. But until this manager goes, this team is going to be where they are right now, which is just outside of the top 6 in Italy. And Nick, to your point of Serie A teams against Premier League teams, the top teams in Italy would run rampant over them, and Juventus isn't one of the top teams in Italy right now. The best team by far is AC Milan, and you put them in that league, and they would probably go 38-0. In that league. I'm sorry, but there is some disparity between these teams. So I'll put some Italian bias on that one. With that said, guys, let's go back to England for the last one. And we're going to talk Man City and Dortmund. The line on this one, Man City minus 500. The draw is plus 600. Dortmund plus 1,200. And while this is one of the higher spreads on Wednesday's card, obviously we're talking about it because of the storyline. And that's why we're discussing this one. Erling Haaland in his first game against his former squad, Dortmund, and he has run rampant over everyone, to use that phrase again. 12 goals thus far in all competitions, 10 in the Premier League, a couple in a win over Sevilla. In Spain, 4-0 on opening day. Pavlos, I'm going to go to you first on this one, but this line is at -2 right now for the game. I can't take the goal line on this one because it's one of those ones where City would be happy with a 2-goal win. That doesn't get us any money. But I do think they get off on the front foot and they take control of this match early. And if they do, it is a first half City win. And the money line on that one is a little more juice than I would normally lay, but I'm going to lay it here. I'm going to take City minus 164 on the three-way first half money line and throw it over to you, Pavlos.
Yeah, well, this could be the case. I was actually I'm actually devastated about how about Dortmund's luck this season. They brought in all these players. They brought in Sebastian Haller from Ajax, boom, cancer. They brought in Adeyemi from Salzburg, boom, he suffered an injury in his first match of the season. Dahoud is now injured. Their starting goalkeeper is injured. Torgan Hazard is injured, so they have a lot of problems up front. Yes, they try to take a more defensive approach this season. I think their defense is looking quite good. Of course, they were exposed by Red Bull Leipzig over the weekend, but there is a clear reason for that, and that is that Leipzig, they changed the coach, and they were sacking before, but now it's the first match after a change in manager is always much, much different, and Dortmund were on the receiving end of that. Now, I was looking at some first half props as well for this match because Manchester City, they've been hit or miss with these totals in the first half. They're 4-4 to the under 1.5 goals in the first half, but the 4 matches that had a lot of first half goals were against Bournemouth and Nottingham, the 2 newcomers in the Premier League. So of course they had a lot of goals. And the other 2 matches were the matches that they were stunned against Newcastle and Crystal Palace. They were down by 2 goals against Crystal Palace. I don't expect that to happen against Dortmund. And against Newcastle, I think this City side got their lesson. They conceded a couple of goals. When you look at Dortmund's matches in the first half, they're 5-2 to the under 1.5 goals in the first half. Of course, each of the last 2 matches produced 2 first half goals. The one against Leipzig that I told you about earlier, and their first match in the Champions League against Copenhagen, where it's Copenhagen. I mean, if you don't score early goals against them, who can you score against? But even those 2 goals were very late in that first half. Now, I think that Dortmund know what they're getting themselves into in this match. They know that they can't really attack and leave open spaces to City because Haaland will destroy you. So I expect a very, very, very careful first half from Dortmund, especially Dortmund, because they know that they can't really match the offensive firepower of Manchester City. They're actually in the opposite side of it. So the only way that they could maybe avoid a huge loss or even maybe take a point here is through their defense. So I expect a very careful first half between the 2 sides, and I like the under 1.5 goals in the first half, minus 115.
All right, Pavlos with his take on the City Dortmund game. Nick, I'm going to go to you next on this one. Do we see some goals?
Probably. I mean, Manchester City can put up 4, 5, 6, whatever without too much effort, but I think Dortmund's going to, as Pavlos mentioned, play it pretty cautious. So I'm not going to look at the total in this one because I do see the potential for goals, but I'm also a little weary of how this thing starts out. Instead, I'm going to head start on Dortmund. Right now, it's about even money on plus 2 goals. You can pay, depending on the book, minus 130 to minus 140 on the alternate line. You can get the hook, as we call it, plus 2.25. So for Asian bettors or Asian handicap betting, for those that don't understand that, I'll confuse it even more. I actually have half of my bet on plus 2 and half of my bet on plus 2.25. So effectively, I have a plus 2.125 bet on this game. But really, this comes down to, for me, it's Haaland, right? But if anybody in the world, any team in the world is going to know how to play against them, it's got to be Dortmund, right? I mean, you get their manager, Terzic, who has been with Dortmund for multiple years in different roles, along with a lot of their defenders who, play with Haaland on a daily basis in practice. They got to know where to position themselves because, they see him all the time. And the thing that's happening right now with City is Haaland is a striker. They've never had a striker. They're clearly playing to that. And the guy scored 12 goals. Some of them have been, rebound type of things, but a lot of them are being, I don't want to say forced to them because they don't really have to force much. They're able to break a lot of teams down. But they're definitely feeding it to him, and they're looking to utilize that striker position. And I think Dortmund, knowing that and knowing how to play Haaland in that situation, could shut him down. And I'm worried, what if they can actually nullify Haaland? Yes, Man City has plenty of other guys, but at the same point, are they going to be able to just, right away? Maybe Pep will get something changed in the second half to accommodate and change, and maybe they'll pull away at that point. But if this game starts off slow and tight, as Pavlos suggested, I like the full number game, or the full number on the game at +2 or +2.25 if you want to pay it. The last thing I'll mention is, Man City this year has laid similar numbers to Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest, along with Crystal Palace, who ultimately dropped to +2 at kickoff. And so in terms of value, I just ask myself, is Dortmund a Bournemouth? Is Dortmund and Nottingham Forest? Is Dortmund a Crystal Palace? I don't know. I see them a little bit better than any of those sides. So I just see some value in the number as it currently is. I'll end with, I would not be so completely surprised to see Man City win this 4-0, but I think this is going to be pretty tight throughout the match, at least to start. And I don't think City's necessarily going to pull away at the end. So I'm going to take the head start on Dortmund.
4-0. I've got to look up that price, Nick, and I will once Kevin is done. But I'm sure it's a juicy price. But with a total of 3.5 and City playing at home, you just never know. Kev, I'm going to give you the final word on this one. You look at the Pavlos did mention the managerial change at Leipzig, and sometimes that is a good angle to take that team next time out. But we're Dortmund looking ahead to this one. 3-0 is not a great scoreline for them at any time in Bundesliga, but they dropped that result and didn't look good doing it. Do we see more of the same here?
Yeah, against the former manager too, Carmine. So there are a lot of different aspects to that game. I was a fan of Tedesco, so it's a shame how he, started the season. Obviously, he's gone now, but he did a good job last year. But look, that's beside the point. I have to look at goals in this one. It's just City have been sensational in front of nets this season. It's a wonder why they waited so long to actually get a striker. 24 goals over the last 7 games, and all 4 of those 7 games saw City find the back of the net at least 4 times. So I just don't know how they don't score multiple goals in this one against Dortmund, especially, as you guys mentioned, coming off a 3-0 whitewash against Leipzig. Dortmund can score themselves, obviously, showed that against Copenhagen last week. So them getting on the score sheet in this one wouldn't be a complete surprise either. But it's just those defensive frailties for me, that Dortmund have shown previously in Europe that just, that would give me some, trepidation about stepping in on an under here. Because, we look back to last year, Dortmund lost 2 of the 3 Champions League away games in the group stage by a 7-1 aggregate scoreline. Those coming against Ajax and Sporting Lisbon, 2 far inferior teams, you would say, in Sporting Lisbon's case, to what they'll face here on Wednesday. So I just can't see anything other than a comfortable kind of Manchester City victory. I can't see anything other than goals in this one as well. 10 of Manchester City's last 13 games overall at the Etihad Stadium have seen at least 4 goals scored. And I think that run continues here against Dortmund on Wednesday as well. So I'm not really going to overcomplicate it. It probably won't be on my card either. But if I was playing this one, I would just take the straight over 3.5.
All right, Kevin Dolan of WagerTalk.com. Guys, before we get into our best bet segment, I want to mention it's Tuesday, so it is $2 Tuesdays over at WagerTalk and Sports Memo. $2 Tuesdays where you can get a featured cappers play for only $2 along with some great promos. These are plays that normally go for $25 and $35. Over at WagerTalk, it's Ben Burns. He's got a 5% game of the week. He is 20-10 with his last 30 max bet plays. And over at Sports Memo, it's the Sports Memo Family Affair hosts. You can get Joe D'Amico. He's got a no limit game of the month. His lovely wife, Dion D'Amico, with a 5% NCAA football best bet play. And then JM Sports with a week 2 college football game of the week. He's on a 5-0-1 run himself. You can get all 3 of those Sports Memo cappers for $5 or $2 each separately. So head over to Sports Memo and Wager Talk and take advantage of those deals. All right, we're going to get into our best bet segment on the show. These are plays that can come from any game in Europe or here in North America. Nick, I'm going to go to you first. Tell us what you have up at Wager Talk and a best bet for the show.
I do have a 5% play on the Champions League card going Wednesday. So looking to cash that easy winner on Man City last week. 5-1 Champions League start last week. So hopefully we'll continue that today, plus a 4-pack up for today's action. But I'm going to stick with, for the show best bet here, I'm sticking with the MLS, which has been good this year. And I'm looking at Atlanta on the road at Orlando, getting a half a goal head start. And I'll first bluntly say this, Atlanta has not traveled well this season. They won their second match of the year at DC, but have not won a single away match in 13 straight games. So why the hell would I want to back Atlanta here? Well, mostly because I see this as a continued letdown spot for Orlando. They won the U.S. Open Cup last week, followed that up this past weekend, getting smacked by Philly 5-1. And, you know, as the luster of that cup obviously wore off there, and I don't know if they're just going to really recover and get right back up here for this match versus Atlanta coming off a great win, 4-2 over your Toronto side, Carm, where they put up 4 goals on 4.5 expected goals. So they could be coming here with a little confidence. Atlanta has very good offense this year. They actually lead the MLS in shots generated and shots on goal per game. They have the 5th best expected goals per game. Their issue has been on the defensive side. But Orlando is not a team I'm too concerned with to take advantage of that. There's only 4 teams that generate less expected goals this year than Orlando, so it's not like they're on an offensive juggernaut. History also on our side. Orlando has 3 wins in 17 all-time meetings between these sides. This is do or die for Atlanta. If they're going to make the playoffs, they got to win here. I think they're going to do everything they can to at least get a draw, so I'm going to take the double chance plus a half a goal on Atlanta.
All right, Nick Borrman with an MLS play. Pavlos, I'm going to go to you next. And Nick mentioned, just on a quick note, that TFC getting scored on. My team, TFC, everyone scores on TFC. It's like when you go on your yacht cruise once a year, you're scoring like crazy. So give us a play, and let's hope that this one scores as well.
Yeah, I'm going to look at the Barcelona versus Bayern Munich match. I'm going to take Thomas Muller to score any time at plus 162. Now, here's some very interesting facts about this guy. He scored more goals against Barcelona than any other team over the years with 8 goals in 7 matches. Today, it's his birthday, so there is another reason for a small stake bet on Muller to score anytime at plus 162. For another reason, last season, Bayern Munich, they played Barcelona on September 14th, just one day after Thomas Muller's birthday, and he scored. He scored the first goal as well. So the season before that, he also scored in his first match after his birthday in an 8-0 win against Schalke. Back in 2016, he also scored a Champions League match, which was on his birthday. I went all the way back to 2009 and 10 when he started playing in the Bundesliga. And Thomas Muller has scored within 5 days of his birthday in 9 of 13 seasons in his career. He has scored 15 goals in matches that are within 5 days of his birthday. So it's more than clear that this guy likes to score on his birthday or around his birthday. And sometimes he even scored in the midweek match and in the weekend match, which were very close to his birthday. So I hate his face, but I think Thomas Muller is going to score tonight. So I like Thomas Muller to score anytime at plus 162.
All right, Pavlos with a goal-scoring prop that comes with some birthday statistical data. I love that, Pavlos. You're really finding these ones. Kev, I'm going to go to you next. Tell us what you got.
Up for tonight, we got a Champions League play, Carmine Champions League mismatch play. We got an MLS double pack, and we got a Champions League 2-pack up for tomorrow as well. Our best bet's going to be in the English League One. I love these English lower leagues. We already have a Twitter free play up for English Championship tonight, but this one's going to be on Bristol Rovers at Ipswich tonight. And I like Ipswich -1.25 on the handicap line to win and cover. Ipswich top the table right now in League One, but they have been poor at home to start the season, just 1 win from 3. So we're getting some value on this line, but they come off a 6-0 dismantling of Northampton at home in the EFL Trophy 2 weeks ago. I don't see them having any issues with Bristol Rovers tonight either at Portman Road. Bristol Rovers are winless in 5. They've given up 8 goals now in 3 straight road defeats as well. They've got the league's 5th worst defensive XGA rating. So I see Ipswich winning this one by margin later tonight. So minus 1.25 on the handicap line. Best bet for Tuesday, Ipswich in English League One.
All right, Kevin Dolan, WagerTalk.com. And I'm going to finish it off with the AC Milan and Dinamo Zagreb game. This AC Milan team that drew their opening fixture in Austria against Salzburg, and Dinamo Zagreb, while getting outplayed statistically, if you look at the final analytical numbers, found a way to beat Chelsea 1-0. But Chelsea has struggled of late. I'm going to go with the old Marco D'Angelo angle, the fat and sassy. Zagreb's coming here off that win, but AC Milan at home have been formidable. This is the best team in Italy, and one that I expect to be super tough to beat again this year at San Siro. While the line in this game it's lined perfectly at 1.75 in favor of AC Milan, I'm going to go back to a play that I normally give out that has hit a few times already, and I'm going to go with the halftime full-time line. You could take AC Milan halftime full-time at minus 125. What that means is they will have the lead at halftime and then win the game. So both of those have to happen for that to cash. I'm going to take the minus 125 here with AC Milan halftime full-time as your show best bet. We will do a recap at the end of the show, but I want to mention one last time, you can get 7-day soccer all access from any of the guys on this show. Using code CHAMPIONS20 at checkout, you can get $20 off that $79 price and getting it for only $59. And I've got a 5% play up in Champions League that goes today. That play itself is normally $35. So you can get 7 days for $59. That's a great deal. Guys, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back on Thursday with some more games. The EPL returns. For myself, Nick Borrman, Kevin Dolan, and Pavlos Laguretos. This is Stoppage Time. Thanks for watching.
Tuesdays is known as $2 Tuesdays at WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com, where you can get the hottest handicappers' best bet or daily package for only $2.